Jacksonville. O. Henry, 31-10. Derrick Henry running his way to Canton against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Rich Eisen of the NFL Network joked that basically you could take Henry's career against Jacksonville and put him in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That's how much he has absolutely killed the Jaguars. Todd Wash told us they had stiff arm practice all week long here in Jacksonville, and it didn't seem to work very well today as Henry goes over 200 yards for the second time against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the Jags are back to giving up 30-plus points again, and they lose their 12th in a row, which is a franchise record for one season. They're closing in on 15 straight losses. They go to Baltimore next week. They ain't winning that. And you really got to start to wonder if they're going to be able to beat the Chicago Bears either. And they're certainly not going to beat the Colts at season's end, especially if the Colts need a victory, which they probably will because they and Tennessee right now are locked into a battle for first place. Tennessee a half game up because they've already won. The Colts getting ready to take on Vegas. But back to our game today. Mike Glennon, quote, gives us the best chance to win, end quote, was terrible. Gardner Minshew, why hasn't he been playing? Not much better. James Robinson even shut down today. And it's only taken the NFL about, 12 or 13 games to really understand that if you stop the run against the Jaguars, you are going to win football games with ease. James Robinson is really the only hope for this football team. So in the end, he broke one off late to go over 1,000. Congratulations to him. He also set a rookie record for running backs of undrafted variety. Most yards from scrimmage in NFL history, beating Dominic Rhodes and Phillip Lindsay. So congratulations to that. I think James Robinson is a very good NFL running back and a piece going forward for the Jaguars, but I would not be against adding to that rotation. They have nothing behind him. Their offense is not very good. Their defense is not much better. And we continue. We haven't seen the top pick in the draft in weeks. We really haven't seen the second top pick in the draft all season. I think he jumped off sides today, so he might have got into the stat line. Other than that, he had a quarterback hurry as well. But other than that, I think that is about it for Kayvon Chason, and the Jags end up losing their 12th straight football game today by a final score of 31-10. Do we have the quarterback comparison, Liv? Let's show that. Let's take a look-see at what the two quarterbacks did for the Jacksonville Jaguars. That would be Minshew and Glennon we decided to look at. Tannehill had a good game, but today was all about Derrick Henry for them. So there you see Minshew, who really wasn't that much better than Mike Glennon. He threw for a few more yards. He didn't throw a pick. Was able to scramble for 22. Glennon can't run, so he was better. Minshew's a better quarterback. He's just an off-schedule quarterback, and that's all he is. He's an off-schedule quarterback. We all know the Jaguars are going to draft a quarterback, and hopefully with the top pick, but at worst, the second pick of the draft as they continue to lose football games. But Mike Glennon took him 2.5 games before we saw why Mike Glennon is a journeyman quarterback. And, well, nice story, but he's done. And Minshew's back in, and then we'll hear from Doug Marrone here. We've got some tough answers to some tough questions coming up. Like there was a report today from Adam Schefter of ESPN that there is some thought down here in Jacksonville, and unless they've talked to the Cons, nobody knows. But there might be some thought into retaining Doug Marrone for next year. We put that on Twitter, and that was not a positive response from you Jaguar fans whatsoever, and I understand why. Look, there's no way they can keep Doug Marrone. You've got to hire a GM who must have the right to bring in his own coach. And when he brings in his own coach, then he can decide what this organization will look like going forward. But look, Shad Khan is a big part of the problem right now at this point. The most important pieces of the puzzle on an NFL franchise are owner, GM, coach, quarterback. We really have none of any kind of, impactful variety. I see Brent Martineau hanging out down at the stadium. Why don't we zip it over to him and visit with him for a minute or two? Hello, Brentley. What did you think of this one, the 12th straight loss for our Jacksonville Jaguars?
Well, the one thing we've been able to say out here is that, hey, they made it entertaining. We had the WL and the E column. This one was not in the entertaining column. This was boring. And you got to go back to probably, what did I say? There was that 3-game stretch with the Lions, the Texans, and also the Miami Dolphins, 3 out of 4 games in a row where they just looked awful, and it was atrocious. Outside of that, they've had chances, and you can tell they've played hard. This wasn't one of those games. They gave up over 200 yards rushing to Derrick Henry. Remember, this is a football team that came into the year. Their number one priority was to stop the run. And just at times it's been way too leaky in that facet to be able to say, hey, we tried to address this, and we did address this. I mean, you knew the focal point was stopping Derrick Henry. He still got loose and had his way. And the other part of it is James Robinson's the number one player for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Dan. And I thought Jay Gruden, inexcusably, really, had 8 touches in the first half for number 30. James Robinson goes over the 1,000-yard mark. It's a great story. He's really the most fun thing we have going here in Jacksonville with this football team. And Jay Gruden used him 8 times, 7 runs and 1 catch in the first half. Now, it wasn't working very well. The first 4 carries went for 3 yards, and that was it. But Gruden gave up on the run, 22 passes in that time span for Mike Glennon. And it was 7-3, remember, with 2 minutes to go in the first half. So there's plenty of coaching moves, I think, to debate and question and all those things here today, because once again, Gardner Minshew, they finally go to him. Mike Glennon's not the guy. Minshew, he did whatever. I mean, it was garbage time, so it's hard to put a lot of stock into it. But again, this should probably be Gardner Minshew's team the last 3 weeks of the year. We'll see what Doug Marrone has to say about that. Very uninspiring effort from the Jacksonville Jaguars, 31-10, as Tennessee once again sweeps the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I want to talk about a buzzword here that is set in, and it's probably been here for a few weeks now. And it's not the fans' fault, but it's a word that you never want to have if you have an NFL franchise in your town. And that word, ladies and gentlemen, is apathy. And I just think that this franchise right now they'll have an opportunity this offseason with a new GM, a new coach, a new quarterback to build hope, to sell hope. But right now, Brent, I'm curious as to the feel in the stadium today. I heard some Minshew chants through the television, but I believe that I think a lot of people in Jacksonville are finding other things to do rather than see what the Jaguars are up to.
Well, it's really an interesting point. We had someone on Twitter tag both of us and say, hey, there was a local establishment. They were showing the replay of the Gators game against LSU. And by the way, that was a very entertaining game last night. But why wasn't the Jags game on? And I get what they're saying, and they might be right. By the way, every TV in Jacksonville should be on the Jaguars game on Sundays. That's the way it should always be. But so I understand their point. Now, this particular establishment wasn't like a sports bar type thing, so it's not like it was that. But I would also say, if we look at the ratings tomorrow, the Gators game won't even do as well as this Jags game did, believe it or not. So that's just the NFL engine, maybe more so than the Jags. But to your point, I don't know if apathy is where I go to, but you might be right. I'm not discounting it. I said to somebody in the press box, I said, I feel like we're all emotionless now on the Jags. Like, Jags go down 17-3 right before halftime, and it's like, I mean, you're not even really, like, you either get mad or you get happy or you're fist pumping or you're throwing something. When you watch the Jags play, that's the way what you want to be. And I don't think people are doing that. I don't think there's hardly a fist pump on a good play, and I don't really think people are throwing things anymore. They've accepted what it is, and this is a lost season once again for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the reason I hesitate to say apathy, Dan, is because what's around the corner, like you just acknowledged, this is going to be a mega offseason, a major offseason. I think it will actually be an exciting offseason. But I think people are already, myself included, already moved on. Like, I can't wait until January so we can talk about those things rather than talk about Sundays. We should all look forward to Sundays. I don't look forward to Sundays. I look forward to January, February, March, and the draft process now to see if the Jags can make the right decisions with their regime and make the right picks at quarterback and other places to turn this thing around. But that's what I'm excited about. I'm not excited about Sundays anymore. I almost celebrated a little bit, Dan, when Glennon threw the pick in the third quarter. This place booed him off the field. Right. And I was like, well, okay, they're still paying attention at least. And then they gave a nice ovation to Gardner Minshew. So that was, up to your point, though, that was kind of like my measuring stick of the day to answer this question. There were boos for Glennon and applause for Minshew when he came into the game. So that's at least from the however many fans were here for wearing a Jags jersey today. But your point's not lost. Apathy is a very dangerous word. I think we'll still have a bunch of people that watch this football game today disappointed, moving on, checked out, all those things. I think that's accurate.
All right. Thanks, Brent. We'll get back to you in a minute. Let's hear from Doug Marrone. The mark of a bad franchise is when you care more about what's happening between January and August versus the Sundays in the NFL. Let's listen in on Coach Marrone as he readies for his post-game press conference. Doug, are you with us?
I think, looking, Mike, through the pick and, and we were behind and I really wanted to try to get a spark and thinking that, Gardner could, extend plays and make some plays with his feet. And he did that. As far as moving forward, again, I haven't spoken to both guys. So, just out of respect for them, obviously I have in my mind what I want to do, but, I'm actually going to make sure I speak to them first before I do something, through the media. I don't want them to find out, from what I said, because after the game, everything happened so quickly for me.
What was Mike's biggest struggle today?
Well, he threw some good balls and we left some plays out there and, he had some drops, it's just tough. I think it's not on one person. I think everyone can see that. There's a lot of things that, we've got to keep working on and keep trying to improve upon. So, I don't think it's the one position right now that we can, point to. I think we just got to try to see, whoever it is, whoever gives us the best chance to, try to win a football game.
Thank you, Doug.
Sure.
Thanks, D-Rock. Let's go to Mark Long and then John Shipley.
Hey, Doug.
Hey, Mark.
James Robinson had another good day, but, not quite what we've seen. But how impressed are we with you, or how, with what he's been able to do? He crossed 1,000 yards I think he became the fourth undrafted rookie to do so.
Yeah, it's a credit to him. I don't think, he's been outstanding. He really has, and, he's a little bit banged up this week, but he's, no indication that was going to slow him down. I think early on, we didn't really have a lot going for us, in the run game. We were trying to, we wanted more from the run game to help us with the play action and then win against man coverage. That was our thought process going into the game. But it's something that, in a season like we're having where everybody's struggling, to have something like that happen is good. Normally, I don't ever really talk about individual accomplishments, Mark, after the game. But I did, because we don't really have a lot going for us, obviously, right now. Except, we have, 3 more opportunities. But it's something that, could be celebrated by all of us, the offensive line, the receivers, the tight ends. And I said even the defensive guys and specialists. It's something of, here's a guy that, represents so much of what's good, about competition, about, playing, about humility, about, keeping things in perspective. That, he's been a great example, even though he's a rookie free agent. He's been a great example for everybody. So, I said that to the team after the game, and they clapped for him, and when there's not a lot to clap about, really.
Thanks, Mark. Let's go to John Shipley and then Gene Burnett.
Hey, Coach. Obviously, Henry had a big day after you guys were able to limit him last time you guys played. What would you just chalk up the run defense issues to today?
Yeah, we had everyone up at the line of scrimmage. We had a bunch of guys up there, and, you get the same thing. Someone gets washed from a gap, or we don't hit the gap fast enough, or we don't squeeze fast enough. He's too good of a running back, to give him a start on that stuff. And, like I said, we're going to go back and obviously you look at it, but, we just got to be able to execute that better. I don't think we can get any more people up there, and have it, covered like that. So, again, it's not from a lack of effort. It's just, you get, sometimes those other guys win too, and they won on those plays and they cost us, and that's one of the things that happened. And he was able to rip off a couple of those runs, those big runs, and just some of the surges that you saw at times, saying on the inside for the 4 or 5 yards. But they kept fighting, and you can see the difference, when they put the other back in there, and now all of a sudden there's a little bit more penetration, a little bit more hesitation. He's the best running back in the league for a reason, and obviously we put everything on the table to try to stop him today, and we weren't able to get that done.
Thanks, Coach.
Sure.
Thanks, John. Let's go over to Gene.
Hey, Doug, could you just talk about what you felt in that locker room when everybody clapped for James? Because after a kind of a deflating loss where the offense really didn't do much of anything all day, but for the teammates to still do that, could you just talk about at least what that moment seemed to mean, not only for you but also for him?
Well, I can tell you my thought process. I think it's hard for me to describe a moment for what other people may think. And I told the player, I said, look, normally, I would never do this, I told the players, I said, maybe some of you people may not think this is the right time, so I acknowledge that. I understand, that some people may view it that way. Obviously we're struggling through this season. Obviously, guys are playing banged up. Guys don't want to come out. There's a great appreciation for that. And I think that, you in a season like this where, you just so, whatever it's, banged up and, discouraged after a game and the emotion after the game. I just thought that, hey, listen, I know this isn't right, but you know what? He stands for what a lot of us stand for. You know what I'm saying? That, we keep fighting. We do the best we can. We take advantage of every opportunity and go for there. And I think it's a lesson for all of us. I think, no matter what happens, where everybody is and this season, with the way guys are going about their business, you can, there's lessons, but make no mistake about it. I'm sure that, with the record and what's going on, obviously, there's a lot of things that you can just check out on, whether you're a coach or whether you're a player. But these guys haven't done that. And that's the one thing that, hey, listen, am I proud of the record? None of us are proud of the record. Am I proud of the guys and proud of this team, about the way they go about their business? I am. I'm not going to be one of those guys that are just going to always, point the finger and blame somebody else and do what happens, quite a bit in a high performance business. So, I thought it was the right time. I'm sure some people will say no. I'm sure some people, may mock me for it, but I just thought it was the right thing to do. And I think, I don't think you're ever wrong when you do the right thing.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Thanks, Gene. And thanks, Coach. We appreciate your time.
All right. Appreciate it, guys.
All right. That's Doug Marrone. I'm going to bring Brent back in. We're going to talk about Doug Marrone for just a second because, as we mentioned earlier in the post-game report, there was a report by Adam Schefter of ESPN suggesting that the Jaguars, Brent, may be interested in keeping Doug Marrone. Now, that I can't imagine that's the case whatsoever. You're hiring a new GM. There is no way you're going to bring in a new general manager who's going to say, yeah, I'm great with that. Let's keep in Doug Marrone. Now, if you give the job to Trent Baalke, you'll maybe something like that happens, but you would have anarchy amongst Jaguar fans. It would be good gracious. And no disrespect to Marrone, he gets it. It's a results-oriented performance business. He's got one win this year, and he's lost 30-some-odd games the last 3 years combined, Brent. There's no way I can imagine them keeping Doug Marrone past this season.
Well, Dan, the most surprised person in the universe, if Doug Marrone comes back in 2021, would be Doug Marrone. He knows how this works. Yeah. And so he's not coming back. I think I think the idea that maybe Schefter said, and I didn't even hear it in its context, but then there was a tweet about it, and I think since then the tweet by somebody out of the Buffalo area that saw it has since taken it down. But I think it was more like, well, they haven't made up their mind yet. Well, that's because the next GM coming in is probably going to make up the mind or just make it official. I feel like Shad Khan has made up his mind. I think it would be a horrendous move at this point to not do anything but clean house and refresh and restart the way this thing has set up for somebody else coming in. And again, you said it, no disrespect to Marrone. I mean, he gets it. I think actually, Dan, for anybody who thought that was still a possibility, or even say after the Schefter report this morning on ESPN, if you watch this game, this was an indictment against Marrone. He has stuck with Glennon and has said, gives us the best chance to win over Minshew. He has really messed up, in my opinion, this quarterback situation. Why didn't he put Glennon in before he put Jake Luton in? Because Glennon at that time, compared to Luton, gave you the best chance to win. But then he tried a rookie and said, hey, let's see what we have with a guy for 3 games. Then brings Glennon in, then finally puts Minshew in, even though it's too late. Should have started Minshew today, and probably should have started Minshew last week or brought him in at some time last week, in my opinion. So whenever he was healthy. So I think Doug Marrone's actually mismanaged this quarterback situation. And on top of it, the one thing we could say about Marrone and this football team is the effort, the try hard, hey, look, they're close. They've lost 5 games by less than 4 points. Well, that wasn't the case today. They were never in it, really, after the first 27, 28 minutes. So, if anything, if there was this little sliver of hope for anybody, Schefter, the guy from Buffalo, Diana Rossini, whoever, that thought Marrone's coming back.
Yeah.
I think today was a major indictment on that. But I would be floored, and so would he, is my guess, if Doug Marrone is back in 2021.
Yeah, and it won't be the case next week when they travel to Baltimore to take on the Ravens, who also need to win to keep their fight for the postseason alive. I liken Mike Glennon again.
I want to jump in on something.
What do you got?
Did you find it interesting to hear all that about James Robinson? You know, they said he went over 1,000 yards, and they gave him a round of applause.
Yeah.
And it sounds like Marrone is. I don't think that was an outside noise thing that he was talking about. It sounds like in his own locker room. Maybe some of the veterans would push back on, hey, don't acknowledge a guy. We're 1-12.
Right.
And you can't acknowledge a guy. Hey, forget about that, man. I mean, this kid has been the lifeblood of your football team.
Yeah.
He's an amazing story. I mean, gosh, I don't know if there are any other people, and maybe I'm approaching this the wrong way. I have no problem at all with Doug Marrone acknowledging James Robinson. Not at all. I mean, this kid has been amazing, man. I mean, he seriously has been one of the few, and maybe at times the only bright spot of this football team. I think he changed the dynamic of some games. Remember that Chargers game where he fired them up and flipped the script, at least for most of that game, to get them back in it? That's how important of a player he's been. So I have no problem with Doug Marrone acknowledging James Robinson today. And it's an interesting way the locker room works if some people will give him pushback on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they would, but I think he was just sort of, at this point, couching everything and saying, well, listen, I mean, if somebody's going to mock me, so be it, but I think it was the right thing to do. I don't think anybody thinks it wasn't the right thing to do. Brent, I liken Mike Glennon to a bad golfer in this respect, and I say this with all due respect of him being an NFL quarterback, but it was like a bad golfer doesn't play golf for like a year, and then they get talked into going out, and then they hit some great shots, right? And they go, hey, this is fun, you know? I feel like Mike Glennon did that in his first game back. And then the golfer says, okay, well, I'm going to play again. I had a great time. And then he goes back out, and all of a sudden the wheels start to come off. And then he goes out another time, and trust me, I can say this because it's happened to me. He goes back out again, and he still can't play, and he gets worse. I think we learned why Mike Glennon is a journeyman NFL quarterback. And again, I say that with the knowledge that anybody who plays in the NFL is a pretty good thrower of the football. But nonetheless, so you're right. The quarterback situation has been bungled the entire season, really ever since the whole Minshew controversy thing began. And so the Jaguars will move forward in the offseason by drafting a quarterback at least in the number 2 pick. Bengals lost today, by the way, so they still are just a game and a half out. But really, I don't envision the Jaguars at winning 2 more games. At best, I could see 1 more win on the schedule. The defense is getting shaky again down the stretch as well. They're not playing as well as they did for that little period in the middle of the season, Brent. And Derrick Henry, what can you say about him? The guy, 4 200-yard games in his career. He's running his way to Canton with a big assist from his hometown.
Yeah, I think I want to hit on your analogy of the golfer. I think it's a very good one. You could also utilize it for Jake Luton. You know, once you see, he came out, did a nice job his first time out, but I'll add one more wrinkle in there.
Yeah.
It would be like, you got to add in the video element of that. Now teams can prepare for you. They can scout you. And that first time out, they haven't seen you in a long time. Even Glennon hadn't started a game in 3.5 years.
Right.
I mean, nobody knew what to expect in that first game. So I like the analogy. It's absolutely accurate. All of us bad golfers know that. And I think that's what's happened with that quarterback position. As for the defense, I mean, they're so depleted. They've had admirable efforts at times. I still give a nod to guys like Smoot and Miles Jack. You see them all over the place. Heck, Joe Giles Harris, I noticed him a little bit. So there are some bright spots along the way, probably if you dig pretty deep. As for Derrick Henry, I looked this up then during the game, and I think it's an important part of the story of Derrick Henry, who doesn't get celebrated around here enough for multiple reasons. Maybe Yuli's up near the border, so people don't kind of forget about that part of it. Maybe mostly, I think, because he's playing for the Tennessee Titans, who many people in Jacksonville don't like, and so it's hard to celebrate somebody on their team, even if he's a local guy. But the first 43 games of his career in the NFL, he had 2 100-yard games. In the last 17 games, I think it is, might be 18 now, he has 13 100-yard plus games in the last 18 games. And 4 of those occasions, he has 200 yards or more. A couple of times against the Jags, a couple of times against Houston. So
you know what, Brent?
That is how good he has been.
I think the reason why, though, is not because of Derrick Henry. I think the reason why he's gotten better is because the Titans figured out what everybody in college knew. You got to feed the beast. If you sit there and you split carries with Derrick Henry and you don't let him get going, it doesn't happen. Derrick Henry's one of the few rare cats who gets stronger as the game goes on. He is a monster, and the more you pound him, the more he wears down a defense, and eventually his will wins out over the defense's will. And I think the Titans finally figured that out, and that's why Derrick Henry is now having success.
Yeah, a year and a half ago, Dan, though, again, a part of his story is the Titans were ready to move on.
Yeah.
The Titans were, I think, looking for trade partners for Derrick Henry. They were like, this isn't going to work out. And then they fed him. And just what you said, very at least around here, you can equate him to Maurice Jones-Drew in that sense, right? It always felt like Mojo got going more and more. You know, even if it wasn't working early on, he got going more and more in the third and fourth quarter. And Henry is definitely that kind of back. At times, it's funny, I said to Marcel in the press box, we're watching, and it's like, gosh, he looks so slow on that run, but he just falls forward for 4 yards, and then all of a sudden he breaks away and nobody can catch him, and the speed shows up. It's really a tremendous path of his career that did not start and always look like this in the NFL, and now it looks like he's going to run all the way to Canton, Ohio. I think Gardner Minshew's at the podium right now. Let's hear from the Jaguars quarterback who came in for the first time since October 25th here today.
I miss camaraderie with the guys. I miss being out there. As much as you're always a part of the team, it's just something different, when you really are out there with the guys, and it's always special. I thought we got in a rhythm. It was kind of up and down. I think we can finish drives better.
What the frustration of not being played, did that go away the moment you get, or not playing before, does that go away the moment you get on the field, or you still kind of feel a little bit frustrated at being on the bench for a while?
No, I mean, you don't think about that once you're out there. You really don't think about anything else but, the guys on your team and trying to go score the ball.
Thanks.
Thanks, D-Rock. Let's go to Mia and then John Shipley.
Hey, Gardner. Long time no chat. What has this last 2 weeks especially, been like for you?
It's been different for sure. I'm just trying to, help Mike in any way I could. Just help the team in any way I could through preparation, through practice. But, there's always that itch, and, there's really nothing to scratch it other than just getting out there and playing.
For you guys today, passing attack-wise, obviously you guys had more success when you entered the game. I know struggling to find DJ, both you and Mike. What did you feel like the Titans gave you guys, and how were you able to exploit it, or not?
Once I came into the game, it's kind of a different type of game, being down multiple scores. They play you kind of differently. So I think the goal there is just take the completions when they're there, which I could have done a better job of, and then taking the shots when they're there, which I thought we did an okay job of. But yeah, they did a good job. They mixed up their looks. They're very well coached, super disciplined in what they do. I've played several different corners that they've thrown out there, and they've gotten them all to play, very well at a high level. So I think that's a testament to a good coaching staff.
What was the vibe on the sideline, when you go in down multiple scores and, the rest of the game?
Yeah, I just told the guys, I was like, hey, man, let's just go have fun. We can't worry about the score, can't worry about anything else. Let's just go enjoy this, play the game. It's not like we're doing chores. We're going to play a game. And I think it was, got something going a little bit. It should have been better.
Awesome. Thanks, Gardner.
All right. Thanks, Mia. Let's go to John Shipley and then Gene.
Hey, Gardner, I know it's not up to you, but do you feel like with what you did today that you did enough to kind of, prove that you should be the guy next week and these last couple of weeks moving forward?
I don't know. That's not my call. I'm going to try to help the team, score points. I'm going to try to help the team get better any way I can. Whatever they need me to do, I'll do. But obviously, there's nothing like being out there, being under center.
And then just those couple of weeks, away from being on the field, do you feel like you kind of maybe learned something during that? I know you kind of went through a similar thing last year.
Yeah, exactly. It was a lot like last year where you're able to really go back and self-scout and, picked up on a few things. Like I remember last year it was all about, coming back with better ball security in the pocket. And I feel like I accomplished that. And, I have some things this year that I want to work on as well.
Thanks, Gardner.
Yep.
Thanks, John. Let's go to Gene, and then we'll finish with Cassidy. Gene, I think you're on mute, Gene.
You must have muted me back. Can you hear me?
Oh, man. You knew I was coming, huh?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, gotcha.
Doug talked afterwards about the applause that broke out when he was mentioning about James Robinson. Obviously, after a lopsided loss like this, it could maybe feel a little bit awkward. How did you feel about the timing of doing that? Or did you feel more strongly that James Robinson deserved to have that moment acknowledged in the locker room in front of his teammates?
No, he definitely deserved that. Coming in as an undrafted rookie to carry the load and help this team the way he has, he deserves all that. I'm all for individual accomplishments because that eventually helps the team win. I wish everybody was out here breaking records and, reaching milestones. So I think that's something we should all strive for. And, if everybody does their job to the level that James is doing it, then we'll be all right.
Thanks.
All right, let's finish up with Cassidy.
Hey, Gardner, when you've got a few weeks since you've been on off, there's usually some rust to shake off. How vital was it just to have Keelan out there and that chemistry already there that you were able to immediately start targeting him and eventually get it into the end zone?
Yeah, no, it was good. All those guys, I have a lot of trust in, and we put a lot of work in. But man, Keelan, he's been playing really well for us. He's a guy that, we like our matchup in man with him. And, we're going to continue to try to get the ball in his hands.
All right, thanks, Cassidy. And thanks, Gardner.
Thanks.
You're all finished.
All right, that's Gardner Minshew wrapping up. Stuart Weber would be upset, Brent. There's way too much headroom in that shot, but nonetheless, that's not for us to decide. We're not shooting that. It's clear to me. You bring Gardner Minshew out. I don't know how. Listen, Gardner Minshew ain't the answer either. Gardner Minshew is an off-schedule quarterback. That's what he does. But it's clear to me going forward that Gardner Minshew is going. I don't know how Doug Marrone could come back and say we're going with Mike Lennon.
Yeah, he can't. He can't. I think again, one of the stunners of last week was 5 minutes after the game when Glennon threw 2 picks, should have thrown a third, fumbled the ball and took a safety that Doug Marrone was ready to say, hey, I'm not going to discuss this or look at anything. Yeah. I'm going to just, boom, go with Glennon again. He didn't do that this time around. He wouldn't say, I'm going with Gardner Minshew, but that was out of more respect for Glennon and Minshew to be able to talk to those guys before announcing it in the media. So, yes, I fully anticipate it'll be Gardner Minshew the last 3 weeks. And, Dan, listen, I think people are missing an important part of the Minshew stuff. I feel like I'm like this Minshew defender. That's not really it. Minshew had his chance early on, didn't really prove it. Listen, he lost trust with the coaching staff. That's on him too. I didn't think he should have talked this week and appeared to be kind of upset with the whole situation. I don't think that was a good look by him either. So he has his faults, but he is under contract for the next couple years. He has won 7 games for this Jacksonville Jaguars franchise the last 2 years. He most likely, at least the way I see it right now, will be the backup quarterback going forward behind whatever young guy there is in 2021. I think if I'm Shad Khan, I believe that too. And so I want that guy going out there and playing as a young quarterback, getting better, and at least that way I'll have a more experienced backup quarterback for the next couple of years on my football team. Now, listen, maybe they cut him. Maybe he's not on the football team. Who knows what people do? But I'm just for next year alone, play Gardner Minshew for the next few weeks. Let him get more reps. Let him try to get better. Work on some of those things. That's what makes sense to me. So, I think we will see Gardner Minshew these last few weeks.
I'll say this, though, Brent, as far as Minshew being the backup next year. You better have a strong coach who carries the respect of this organization, something we haven't had leadership-wise, because if you have Gardner Minshew and you have Justin Fields, for example, and Justin Fields is your starter and he struggles out of the gates weeks 1 or 2, you got to have enough as a coach. No, I'm here to win. I'm putting Minshew in, let Fields watch, or vice versa. In other words, if you got another guy there who's, like a veteran guy like Glennon, we all know it's going to be the rookies team going forward.
Yeah, that's a good point, Dan. I think a great situation to look at, and I'm not sure he made the right decisions in all of this, but it was an interesting way he looked at it, was Brian Flores down in Miami.
Correct.
I thought it was odd that they went from Fitzpatrick to Tua at the time they did that. And then they kept winning games, though, even though they did that, because of the belief you mentioned in their head coach. And then, remember the game where Tua wasn't playing well, put Fitzpatrick in, and, they've bounced back and forth. Tua, by the way, threw for over 300 today against Mahomes and the Chiefs. So that's what you're talking about, and you have to balance that situation, have the conviction and the belief of your roster and your team and the organization to do that. But right now, the way I see it is, this is a guy in Minshew that you've invested in a little bit. He's not very costly, and he's got some game experience. I mean, I'm not sure who you'd find better to be the backup quarterback right now in Jacksonville next year. So I got to plan that way, and I'm playing him the next 3 weeks to make sure he's ready to go if I need him at some point in the future.
I would agree with you. All right, Brent, great job. Appreciate it. We'll see you back tonight. We got Action Sports Jack's prime time coming up tonight on Fox 30 at 10:30. And by the way, gang, we'll hear from James Robinson and see what he has to say, as well as he talks about, his record-setting season. Congratulations to him. He really, as Brent said, has been the sole bright spot in an otherwise dreary Jaguar football season. That's at 12 straight. I'm going to get this right this way. Okay. I like to be positioned in between perfectly. Yeah. 12 straight losses and counting for the Jaguars. We'll be here next Sunday to celebrate loss number 13. Then we'll have the Bears, which is kind of we'll see. Although they routed Houston today. And then we'll wrap with Indianapolis. And then lastly, we'll go outside and we'll take the 2020 season. We'll wrap it up. We'll take out a gun and we'll shoot it over and over and over again and be done with it. So thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you coming up tonight on the TV side of things, and have a good rest of your Sunday.
It's the best local sports show in Jacksonville. Thanks for watching the Action Sports Jax Postgame Show, sponsored by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys.